Well, hi everybody. Welcome to the Meno Lounge. Post-summer, post-Labor Day. Let's get back to business. Episode number 1 for the fall. So excited to be here. I see our guest is here already. I'm going to bring her up. Here we go. Women are hot. Intermittent in the summer, although I took a nice break, a really good break. So much going on. No vacation, but a lot. Here she comes. Jerry, I see you're really far away.
Oh, let me get closer to you.
I'm really close. Like my daughter always says, Mom, your head is too big in Middle Lounge, and you're really far away.
Well, that means that you're very intelligent. Has to hold all that gray matter.
Something like that. I'm trying to hold on to all the gray matter I have, Jerry. So glad to have you as our guest today, kicking off the rest of the year, Gerianne DiPiano. Oops, you might have me on something. I'm getting a little reverberation on your end, but we'll keep going. It might go away. But dear Gerianne DiPiano, founder and CEO of FemmePharma, and who I consider sort of the women's health pharma OG wizard. How's that for a title?
Oh, thank you. Yes, it just means that I've spent a lot of years working in women's health care, both in the prescription, which is where I started my career working in prescription pharmaceuticals, and then still do work in prescription pharma, but we also have consumer products at FemmePharma Consumer Healthcare.
Right. It's amazing. I mean, you also have a great podcast. You're also a movie star.
Oh, right.
You were in the M Factor film. Let's get to the fun part first, Jerry. I mean, it's all fun, but this is more fun. How was it? Hi, Natasha. How are you? So tell us, Jerry, you were in the film M Factor. Tell us about that experience.
So the highlight was meeting Tamsin Fadal. So
Love
she's
her.
very cool. And we were at her condo, and her condo is gorgeous. And I couldn't stop looking at the view. And I had the opportunity to meet Joanne LaMarca, who was one of the co-producers for one of the Today Show segments. So really great group of women. I think I could have spoken to them for days. In fact, Joanne and I became Facebook friends and all that sort of stuff. So all good. It was
Really
all
good. They're both wonderful. I love them. And also Denise, I know you know Denise Pines, who's the other executive producer.
yeah.
And it's actually, Jerry, I know you know this, Perimenopause Awareness Month. And the M Factor is going to have a new film coming out in the spring all about perimenopause. So super excited for that. But one of the things I loved about you being in the film is you were the only person that was really talking about supplements, which we know that menopausal women really want and are seeking to help manage symptoms. So I know we have some things to talk about advocacy, and especially as it relates to perimenopausal women because they're new to the game. But let's talk about supplements first. And in your company, in your consumer company, you decided to create a line of supplements in addition to your most amazing, magical intimacy moisturizer, intimate skin moisturizer, I should say, which I have been a customer of for a long time. So why did you decide to launch into supplements and then talk about it in the film?
Sure. So when we think about women's health care, we really need to think about women's health care in the context of what is going on with you individually. And it's not one product or one strategy meets everyone's needs. So we need to think about what's going on in your body, what symptoms are giving you the most troubling side effects, what's impairing your quality of life. And then I am a big believer that you start with the most benign approach. So I've developed drugs for a living. In fact, we're still developing prescription pharmaceuticals. We do clinical research on our prescription side of our company, our sister company. So it's not to say that I'm not a believer that prescription pharmaceuticals have their place, but let's start with the lowest effective dose of whatever. Let's start with a more natural approach. Let's start thinking about diet. Let's start thinking about your mental health and ways in which we can address your mental health. And that may or may not require a prescription. That may require you to be really rethinking your personal strategy. So I tend to take a holistic view to health.
Right.
And when we take a holistic view to health, we start with how are we sleeping? What are we eating? When are we eating? So, what are those triggers? Some of us don't eat when we are stressed out. Hello? Some of us tend to overconsume when we are
Hello.
stressed out. So, what are your triggers?
Right.
And what type of a diet do you maintain? So, it shouldn't surprise any of us that we don't get enough fiber in our diets. Did you know that you need 24 grams of fiber each day? Well,
Right.
if you're not getting 24 grams of fiber each day, you're probably going to be bloated and you're going to feel constipated. And constipation also leads to other issues like something called megacolon. So your colon continues to expand. That's not a good thing because it becomes a vicious circle. Just
Mm-hmm.
continue to experience it more and more. So
Right.
thinking about what you eat, when you eat, and how you eat. So what's on your plate? Is it colorful? I love that, as you devised the MenoWell product line, this is one of the keys that you were thinking about,
Yeah.
right?
I really struggled with getting in my fiber, and then all the things that you were talking about, things did not move in my body very well, but making sure I have an easy way to get my fiber in, it's a game changer.
It is. And by the way, if you are, if you're not drinking enough fluid, so we talk about hydration. So we tend to go throughout the day. I always put a couple bottles of water on my desk in the morning, and then I consume those before noon, and then a couple bottles in the afternoon because I don't like water. I
Right.
actually dislike water,
Most
but I
people
know
don't
I need
love
it.
water. Yeah.
I know I need water. So again, these are really basic things. So
Yeah.
when we thought about the consumer health side of things, we said let's start with the most benign approach and identify some products that could actually ameliorate some of the symptoms, especially women's symptoms in perimenopause, but not exclusively. These are products that women could use in their 30s, 40s, certainly in perimenopause and postmenopausally, but you really need to be thinking about your health in your 30s. That's a really pivotal time because you
Yeah.
can engage in a lot of bad habits in your 20s. You start to think about that in your 30s because perhaps you're thinking that, I've hit that magic number, 30,
Right.
and perhaps you are thinking about having children, or maybe you don't want to have children, but you are also staring down perimenopause because women can start to experience these symptoms in their 30s and
Right.
their 40s.
Right.
Really,
I know. Millennial menopause. It's the new hot phrase.
that's right. That's right.
Yeah.
So you want to take good care of your body when you're in your 30s and 40s. So when you actually do hit perimenopause and menopause, you've already implemented these strategies. So we looked at things like hyaluronic acid supplements. Hyaluronic acid starts to decline as we begin to approach the years that I just mentioned. So you want to take an oral supplement to potentially provide you with the benefits of increasing hyaluronic acid in your body. So that supports your hair, your skin, and your nails.
Mm-hmm.
Sleep
Okay.
is so important to
Huge.
all of us. And on the prescription side, there have been a lot of products that have been developed as hypnotic sedatives. They are habit forming, and by the way, many of them have not been clinically tested in a female population. So women tend to be overprescribed. Not a good thing, and
Mm-hmm.
it's very dangerous. So, what are some of the natural supplements that we can provide? What are the key ingredients? So, we did a sleep supplement. So those are the ways in which we conceived of some of the supplements that could support women as they move through their 30s, 40s, and beyond. And of course, then there's always the personal lubricant and moisturizer, which is, by the way, for every woman at any age, including women who are menstruating, apply it to your tampon because every time you insert that tampon, you are causing an abrasion and potentially a tear. So you want to keep your vaginal mucosa nice and healthy. If it's difficult to insert that tampon, you are creating a tear.
Wow. I didn't think about that. I'll be passing that on to uh, women who are still having their period. I won't say my daughter, but all of her friends. I
And
didn't
by
think
the
about
way,
that, Jerry. That's really important. Really, really good.
well, it is. And by the way, that also, if you have tears in your vaginal mucosa, it also is a pathway for sexually transmitted infections.
Mm,
So you want to keep that intact. And
yeah.
that is a key. And it has been something that we have begun to encourage young women to think about. And again, it's because they're active. Sometimes they're using pads and tampons. That causes chafing.
Mm,
If you're an athlete,
mm-hmm.
you
Yeah.
probably have had sports vagina. So you want to make sure that you use an intimate skin moisturizer on the external, so on the labia, in the vulva. And so those are the sorts of things that we conceived of for the consumer health products.
I love it. And the fact that you come from, I mean, the original FemmePharma company, what, 1989? Is that when you got involved? Um,
Actually, that was a little later, so it was 1999 when we actually had our first patent issue. And now, 34 patents later and clinical trials, we sold company number one to a multinational pharmaceutical company, and then did company number two, where we have products in clinical studies for endometriosis and overactive bladder and fibrocystic breast condition. So, yeah, we're still plowing that territory for women because it's so important. There isn't enough research being done in women's healthcare, and we aim to change that.
it's so important, and especially coming from someone like you, Jerry, who have been in the industry a long time, have been at the table with these trials and understanding products, not to mention patents. Really, thank you. Thank you for all the work you've done. And so let's just look forward now, having seen the landscape change over the years. What are you seeing? Are you happy with the progress? Are you concerned? I mean, we always know that there could be more and faster, but what's your take on it from your lens?
So I think that first of all, there is a lot of advocacy out there, as evidenced by this group of women that got together to do the M Factor documentary. I think that was a major milestone. We know that there was a meeting at the United States Food and Drug Administration where there was a conversation about hormone replacement therapy. I happened to work for the company that had Premarin. So
Oh,
I was there during those days and know a lot about the story.
yeah.
We should not indict research, by the way. I'm a big believer that every time we do research, we learn something new. And so what we learned from that study has been important to take forward. And
Mm,
that's one of the reasons why they wanted to have this conversation with the United States Food and Drug Administration. However, we need to disabuse the regulators and women in general that we know everything that there is to know about HRT and other things that are deemed to be beneficial for women. More research needs to be done. More research on dosage frequency, where to apply it, and which women are the best candidates.
mm.
And
Do you
that
feel
will
like we
help
still
us
have
to
a big gap
out.
there, Jerry?
We do, because it really comes to individualized care. So what works for me may not work for my sister, who
Mm-hmm.
looks different than I do. When I say it, there are racial disparities. There are disparities in terms of ethnicity, in terms of different diseases and disorders that women suffer from. And we've got to look at the entire population and we've got to determine what is best for you. If you look different than me or
Mm,
you have different comorbidities
right.
than I do. So more research is needed, but I think that we are making the right strides. Now, having said that, I am concerned. I am concerned with the political environment, and I have to say that because we have not arrived. We don't
Mm,
have everything we need,
no.
as evidenced by the fact that Diseases like endometriosis are largely still underfunded and ignored. And
Wow.
so, that's just one small piece of the puzzle. Ditto on products for women in perimenopause and menopause.
Right.
More
Right.
research needs to be done. There's more funding that we need, federal funding. So
Right.
when you're shutting down universities, when you're pulling the funding from major teaching institutions, that's where we run our clinical trials. We recruit those institutions to help us to run clinical studies. And they have been decimated.
Mm-hmm.
Their teams have
I don't think people understand that that's where clinical studies happen. They think they only happen in big pharma labs somewhere.
No, a lot of the early research, so a lot of the preclinical and early stage research will happen at academic institutions. There's quite a bit of technology transfer that comes from academic institutions
Mm-hmm.
because they hire the best and the brightest. And by the way, then they move into industry. So then we recruit them into industry.
Right.
But my point is that even when you are a large multinational pharmaceutical company, you will have a University of California, San Francisco, San Diego, Stanford, Harvard, Columbia in your clinical trial network. Because they have the patients.
Mm. Mm.
So, but if they don't have
patients like time to work on something,
and people like you and me that are candidates for the clinical trial.
And
so
people.
People. So they enroll people like you and I who meet their enrollment criteria.
Mm-hmm.
And because they are very skilled and very talented, you tend to get highly qualified individuals that can run the studies, but also publish the results in a very rigorous way.
And that's where big pharma goes and like, oh, here's something good happening here. Let's collaborate. We'll put our dollars, our resources, and then move these things forward.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So Jerry, you said you put me on alert a little bit here. So I'm going to ask you directly, are you bullish on HRT or hormone therapy or not yet? Or where are you on that, if you want to say?
I believe that there are women for whom it may help, and that is with the advice of their healthcare practitioner. So this is where doing your research is really important, right? So sometimes there are blanket statements made that this product should be used by every woman and it's completely safe. Well, if you don't have the data to support that, it makes it really hard to say that that is a recommendation for every woman. So number one, do your research. Make sure when you have that conversation with your healthcare practitioner that you share information about any first degree relatives that may have experienced breast or other cancers of the reproductive system. And that you also share more about your own personal history. So perhaps there is a more benign approach. For women of a certain age, so we know that if you're going to use HRT, it's probably better that you do it when you are younger and not when you are past the age of 60. Why? Because there are some comorbidities that you probably have, which could amplify your risk. But again, it all comes into consultation with a healthcare practitioner. So I like the idea of options. I like the idea of options, and I like the idea that there is a body of or a group of individuals that have revisited this. That is really helpful. We should not believe that any one product is the panacea.
And that's across the board. There really isn't a one size fits all to most things related to healthcare. Do you agree?
I agree. And that's why I always say that in spite of the fact that I've walked in the prescription side of the arena and also on the consumer side, starting with a more benign approach, thinking about it as I mentioned earlier in this conversation, is probably the best way to approach it. Now, if you need something more, fantastic. If you're eligible and you have the option and your healthcare practitioner is willing to start you on some other course of therapy, that's wonderful. But I always believe in starting with the most benign approach and seeing if it works for you. And if it does, keep going. And when it stops, change.
And so those that are just joining us, benign approach from your perspective are supplements that might be able to help calm symptoms. Is that correct?
Well, I think that it's lifestyle choices.
Lifestyle. I was going to say lifestyle first. Let's do that. I always say nutrition is our biggest lever, and we skip over that so often. But
yes. Yeah. So it's lifestyle choices. So thinking about the way you eat, the way you sleep, the way you exercise or fail to do exercise. So more natural approaches. If you solve those problems and life is good, you don't need to do anything more. If you're still having issues, maybe you do need to add something, whether that's a supplement or changing up, and perhaps you're getting your fiber from something like the MenoWell bar, right? So that's an easy way to get fiber. Yeah. It's an easy way to, when you think about sleep, maybe you need a hefty dose of melatonin and ashwagandha and L-theanine. They're all natural ingredients. And by the way, they've been used outside of, so I will say in Eastern medicine, it's quite common to use those types of supplements.
Right.
So try that. And if that works for you, life is good. But it really starts with your lifestyle choices, the way in which you think about nutrition, the way in which the relationship you have with exercise.
Yeah, there's all the studies coming out, which we already know. We just don't want to hear this. You're going to get me started now, because it's really basic, the things that we need to do, right? Strength training, muscle is so important, probably one of the top things that to make us healthy, building our muscle, being strong, eating well, getting our sleep, staying hydrated, protein, fiber. We don't want to do those things.
So what I always say is keep a diary. So you're your own experiment, okay? You're your own study. So where are you now? So that's your baseline. You feel like crap. So your baseline is pretty,
okay, it's like very low bar.
Pretty bad, low bar. So, what are you doing in terms of sleep? When do you get to sleep? Do you stay asleep? Do you have intermittent waking? Is it the cat that wakes you up in the morning? Is it your kid who's going to high school and has to be out of the house by 7 a.m.? What's going on in your personal life? Thinking about that, what do you consume when you wake in the morning? So keeping that diary. You can do it electronically or you can actually do a paper diary. I do a paper diary. So those sorts of things can be very revealing. So do it for a period of time.
Right.
And then start switching things up one at a time. So pick one. Pick sleep, or pick exercise, or change up what you're eating. Don't drink 4 cups of coffee, especially don't drink coffee after 2 o'clock in the afternoon. Try and get to bed by 10. Right. So those are the sorts of things that they seem obvious, but we forget. So we go from day to day. But the one I love is when you're drinking 4 glasses of wine at night, you can't figure out why you're waking up at 3 o'clock in the morning.
Or how about 1?
Or 1 a.m.
Yeah, so 1 glass of wine, 4 a.m. Yeah.
So those are the sorts of things.
Certain things just aren't our friend in the same way as they would be. But I'm with you, Jerry. I mean, I'm excited that women are feeling empowered around exploring hormone therapy. And I hear what you're saying about it's an individual approach. We have to be our own Sherlock Holmes on this and ask a lot of questions and make sure that we are making a decision that works for our individual body, not the same one that works for everybody. Yeah.
Absolutely. So I'll use one example. So, I've heard it said that when you use vaginal estrogen, it's perfectly safe because it's not systemically absorbed. Well, guess what? It depends on where you place the estrogen because your vagina has a lot of blood vessels, call it very vascular. As you mature, that mucosa becomes very thin. So it allows for the penetration of whatever you put in there
Mm-hmm.
to be enhanced. It also depends on how much, so the quantity of the material. And it also depends on where it's placed. So all of those factors matter, and you can actually measure this in your systemic circulation.
Hmm.
Do
Well,
your research. Do
yes.
your
This
research.
is the best. This is the best. Food for thought doesn't feel appropriate. Thought-provoking comments, Jerry, from someone that has been first at the table with so many clinical trials and really understanding what's behind the things that we receive as consumers and as women from all ages. So important.
Terrible
Important.
things were done to women historically.
Yeah.
And I just finished reading Dr. Elizabeth Cohen's book, It's All in Her Head. Fascinating book. So you'll hear more about that because I have my book club and I'll share more about that. But she documents the history of some pretty awful and horrific things that were done to women. Basically, women were treated like they were the default male or the aberrant human, let's put it that way.
Right.
So between procedures that mutilated them, that discounted them as sexual beings, etc., women have historically not received what they needed in terms of the best treatment, individualized treatment, and more sophisticated approaches to the way in which drugs were administered.
Right. The way
We,
our bodies work.
we need to change that. But we have the power. There are an
Mm.
awful lot of us, and we have the power to make a difference. But we need to approach this as our own best friend. So how
Mm-hmm.
would you advise your best friend if she came to you and said, I am feeling like X, Y, and Z? You'd probably start doing some research to help her to think through her options. Well,
Right.
we need to be our own best friend. You need to do your research. And by the way, even if you're not a scientist or a clinician, you can still go to PubMed, PubMed, and there are articles that you can read. If you have questions about the scientific language, you'll figure it out. We're smart.
We
Women
have
are
AI now.
smart. We're smart. We can figure it out. If you have questions, you can always ask your question of a friend or someone who you know that is in the business of clinical medicine or pharmacology. But do your research.
Mm-hmm.
Understand what this really means. If somebody gives you a blanket statement, oh, this is perfectly safe. I always use relatively safe because it. It matters in the way that this body of yours responds
Yes.
to the drug, but also what the drug does to your body.
Mm.
We call it pharmacokinetics and pharmacodynamics. So what does the drug do to you and what does your body do to the drug? And
Interesting.
that's something that you need to think about. That's why I say individualized treatment for everything, including supplements.
Mm-hmm. Right. 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 Everything. We have to use our intellect as women, and especially as we get to perimenopause and beyond, um, because because of social media, there are so many messages and education available to us, which is phenomenal. But we have to be able to filter what works for us and what we need to pass on. And
Absolutely.
it's tricky. It's tricky, but information is out there. So be an intellect about your own body, right?
Yeah, it's as I said, there are lots of things that you can do to serve yourself in a way that makes you feel like your own best friend. One of those things is do your research, number one. Make sure that you keep a journal so that when we have our brain fog, we forget that we only got 3 hours of sleep the previous night, but oh yeah, that was because I had a glass of wine at 10 o'clock at night and then I went to bed and then the sugar just shot up and Now I'm like thinking about everything I need to do for the next 3 days. So, keep that journal. If you're going to see a healthcare practitioner, make sure you do your research. If you are in perimenopause, you may want to go to the Menopause Society and make
Right.
sure that this practitioner is a certified menopause practitioner. And if they don't meet your needs, because let's face it, I think selecting a practitioner is kind of like dating. In
For
fact,
sure.
it's a very intimate relationship.
Mm-hmm.
So it's got to be somebody that cares and can listen and can give you advice in a way that doesn't demean you,
Mm-hmm.
that doesn't diminish you.
Mm-hmm.
And we both know that there are healthcare practitioners, both men and women, that are guilty of that. Oh, well, sorry, you're just having a hot flash. No, you're not a candidate for anything because you can't take hormones. So
Right.
I'm going to just send you home and, just layer your clothing, bring a little mini fan. That's great. I'm going to strip in my office and I'm
Right.
going to carry a fan around in a board meeting.
Right.
Sorry.
Not going to happen. I
Yeah,
know. Right. That's when our personal advocacy really comes in, because just because someone is a doctor doesn't mean they're a good fit for you at all.
exactly. Exactly. And you need to know when it's time to break up.
Right.
And when I talk about a holistic approach, I also think that women need to stop focusing only on their reproductive issues.
Mm-hmm.
Let's below the belt. Women are dying from cardiovascular disease.
Number one killer of women. That's
Yes,
right.
not breast cancer, cardiovascular disease. So you might want to consider an endocrinologist, particularly if you're having issues with whether it's weight gain or you think you might have diabetes or you are having palpitations. Just don't dismiss them. Yes, palpitations are listed among the perimenopause and menopausal symptoms. But if you're having
But
palpitations and you're having other symptoms like back pain, shoulder pain, feeling like you have indigestion, you may want to have that investigated. Get your calcium score done.
right. Yes, I had that done. 0. I was very happy about that.
Good. That's
At
perfect.
60.
That's perfect.
That's one thing. I've got other things, but that one was good. But those are all
Absolutely.
these things. This is a time in perimenopause, menopause, postmenopausal, to come back to our bodies, to go get tests done, ask a lot of questions, you'll know you've asked a lot of questions if you feel like you're annoying. And we are worth it, and we're not annoying. We deserve this time. We deserve to go deep on our own experience, our own body, our own healthcare. So maybe that's what we should just say. Hashtag be annoying, Jerry.
Yes. Well, it really is, being annoying. So women apologize a lot. They do. Oh, I'm so sorry that I'm, asking you this question, but, I read this article in JAMA. I'm sorry to insult you, but your healthcare practitioner probably didn't read that article in JAM. I hate to tell you this, but in the pharma world that I grew up in, we would bring reprints in, scientific reprints, into the doctors. And that was their best method of education. Again, no disrespect to healthcare practitioners, especially today when they're seeing 35 patients a day, 15 minutes.
Right.
Don't apologize if you read that journal article and you're asking the question. That's your job. Your
I'm
job is to
quick to
take
bring
care of
in
it.
books, right, from all the doctors we know and love, Dr. Mary Claire's book, Dr. Sharon Malone's book, Peter Attia's book, like on to my healthcare. Here's some gifts for you, because
Yeah,
they have to do a lot of things. So why not share
absolutely.
forward?
Absolutely. So
Mm-hmm.
be annoying, ask the right question, and don't apologize.
Right.
That's where, when you show up with that diary, whether it's your electronic diary or it's your journal, be efficient. You start off with, here are the things that are going on. Here's what I'm doing. I've also learned about this, whatever that this is, whether it's natural supplement for sleep or HRT or a vaginal lubricant. That's what you want to be efficient with your questions, because if they only have 15 minutes, you want to get to everything that matters to you most.
Right. I love that. That's following on Dr. Lizellen Follett says, do take a journal, keep a journal the way you're saying, and then go back and look at your top 3 most pressing symptoms and focus on those. And then you can work on the other things, but for the same reason you just said, often we only have 15 minutes. So,
And they'll do, and sometimes when we go in to see our doctor, we tell them what we think they want to hear, right? No,
yeah.
we tell them what we need them to hear.
Mm,
That's
right.
so that's your point, and it makes sense. So when I see my own healthcare practitioner, they like cringe.
I bet they do. They're like, oh, here comes Gerianne again.
They cringe because I'm like, okay,
Here's my journal.
you you prescribed this, and there's a concomitancy issue here.
And here is all the clinical research behind it. Here's the 45 articles. They're like, Jerry, why don't you just come on back and just, write your own script on that.
But actually, then they send the nurse practitioner in, and she is clearly more interested in helping me because she knows that, I'm not trying to offend anyone. I just need the answers.
You're the ultimate self-advocate. And besides, if it's a woman, she wants to know what you know anyway. So she doesn't know either.
Business. I think there is a business in helping people to advocate, because let's face it, you go into the doctor's office, and especially if you get a terrible diagnosis, you go in and everything looks like this, right? It's like people waving their hands in front of you, and you're not processing. So having an advocate who can help you through this is actually important. Let's hope that you don't get to that point. But if you think about it, advocacy is your greatest gift.
Mm.
And if you can do that with every single practitioner, you'll be better served. And by the way, they'll appreciate it, because
I was going to say, and then they can serve the next woman better because of how we advocated for ourselves.
Yes, absolutely. Look, nobody received this training. We're talking about perimenopause and menopause. These healthcare practitioners, God bless them, they didn't receive this training.
Right.
This is all new. There is work being done by the medical school student associations to help medical schools to do a better job with some of this type of training. But it's 2025, and we're now, thankfully, having this conversation, but it is so long overdue.
Right.
So you are helping the healthcare practitioner by imparting this sort of knowledge. If you know that there are these obscure symptoms, they don't know about these symptoms, right?
No.
Maybe they don't know that heart palpitations could be a symptom of perimenopause. Maybe they don't understand the whole aspect of rage. When we talk about rage, they talk about dysfunctional uterine bleeding. I'm bleeding every 10 days. It's excessive. It could be perimenopause, or it could be something else.
Right. And that's the tricky part. Often the symptoms that we experience in perimenopause can be something else. So we owe it to ourselves to go deep on that and not just accept first level, oh, it's just this or just that, because you don't know.
So September is Gynecologic Cancer Awareness Month. And so many women with conditions like ovarian cancer are dismissed. See, it's very, it is very difficult to make that definitive diagnosis. But this is where doing your research can be helpful, because if you have a constellation of these symptoms like bloating, abdominal pain, and vaginal bleeding, you really need to do the deep dive, no pun intended, but you really need to find someone that pays attention to you and those symptoms, not necessarily the gastroenterologist, because a number of women with these types of symptoms are passed over and seen by a gastroenterologist who might call it irritable bowel syndrome.
Right.
And it's something far worse. So again, this is where doing your research, making certain that your doctor listens to you. really listens to you, pays attention to you, and refers you on if necessary.
Okay, or they could just reach out to you, Gerianne, the ultimate OG wizard and all of these things and advocate. Sorry, I'm just
So
offering you up.
I'm very passionate about advocating for women on every level. So that's when people ask me, I say, well, I have been an advocate for women since I was pretty young. So I'm feminist when I
That's
was
probably
17.
what drew us to this space, because I've been the same from business, empowering women economically, and then now, through menopause. But we just have that, in us, I guess, that we want women to feel empowered and educated and inspired to live their best life from all perspectives. So,
Yeah, I mean the products that we develop are meant to deliver a difference for women. It's actually what we say on our sister company site, delivering the difference for women. It's not more of the same, right?
yeah.
Our patient, the women that will have the experience of utilizing some of what we have developed, really about diminishing some of the side effects and increasing the level of efficacy. So sometimes the side effects that you experience are worse than your disease. That's not what you want.
Right.
That's historically what has happened.
Geri, we could go on forever and ever, and I always love having you on the Meno Lounge because you are literally a deep well of knowledge. So thank you for your commitment to women's health, your passion, your great products. Let's let everybody know, I know where they are because I have a lot of them, but where they can buy these products that you've done so much research and work on that women can trust. Where should they go?
So they can come to our website at fempharma.com, spelled FEMMEPHARMA.com. And that is the best way to get our products. And we have the best pricing on our website. So check that out. And that is also.
And how about the podcast? Can they catch the podcast there as well?
So they can find us pretty much on anywhere they get their podcast. It's called Love Mia Vita. And I think we're up to 104 episodes now. So we cover everything from dermatology to sex. So it's pretty far reaching. We say the A to Z of women's health on our podcast. And we have guests like you, Julie.
That's right.
So that's our trailblazers. So we also talk to trailblazers in women's healthcare because we want to make sure that we support and lift up all women.
Yeah, I loved it. We had a great time.
We did.
So if you want more of Gerianne, go to the podcast because you'll get more of her as she's interviewing other people, and you'll learn so much. And make sure you go to FemmePharma, FEMMEPHARMA, to go check out the products. The lubricant. It's my
Yeah.
jam.
Yeah. You'll never know it's not you.
Oh, so good. So good. Gerianne, Geri, my friend, thank you. Hope to see you in real life soon at a Meno event in the
I
fall.
hope so too.
All right. Thanks, everybody. Welcome back. Let's get down to business. Here we go. All right. MenoWell. See you next time.
Bye.
Bye-bye.